The Hidden Key. Part 1. The Mysterious Key. In a small, quiet city lived a man named Tom. Tom was an ordinary locksmith who fixed doors and locks for people. He was known to be kind and hard-working. People trusted him with their homes, offices, and shops, and he took pride in his job. His life was simple. He would wake up early, grab his toolkit, and go around the city, fixing broken locks, making new keys, and sometimes even unlocking doors when people got locked out. Tom loved his work and thought he had seen it all, until one day, he found something that would change his life forever. It was a chilly, gray morning, and Tom was working in his small shop, polishing some new keys he had made. The shop was filled with the sound of metal clinking as he organized his tools. Suddenly, the bell on his shop door rang, and an old woman walked in. She had a wrinkled face, tired eyes, and wore an old, faded coat. In her hand was a single, strange-looking key. Without saying a word, she placed the key on the counter in front of him. Tom looked at it closely. It was unlike any key he had ever seen. It was old and made of dark, heavy metal. The edges were worn, and strange symbols were carved along its shaft. He could tell it wasn't an ordinary key. It looked ancient, almost magical, as if it had come from another time. "Where did you get this key?" Tom asked, his voice filled with curiosity. The old woman did not answer. She only looked at him with a serious expression and said, "Take it. This key will open doors you have never seen before. But remember, not all doors should be opened." Her voice was low, and her eyes stared right into his, as if she knew something he didn't. Tom was puzzled but nodded. He watched as she slowly walked out of his shop without another word. After she left, he picked up the key and examined it more closely. The metal was cool and heavy in his hand, and as he held it, he felt a strange chill run down his spine. Something about the key felt mysterious and unsettling, yet he couldn't resist its pull. Days passed, and Tom kept the key in his pocket, carrying it with him wherever he went. He began to wonder if it was really special or if the old woman was just playing a trick on him. But then, one evening, something happened that changed everything. Tom had just finished his work for the day and was walking home. As he passed an old building he had seen many times before, he suddenly felt the key in his pocket grow warm. Surprised, he stopped and took it out. The key seemed to vibrate slightly, as if it was calling him toward the building. Tom looked around. There was no one else on the street. The building was old and had no lights on. It looked abandoned. He felt a strange urge to go inside, so he quietly approached the door. He tried the door handle, but it was locked. Without thinking, he took the key from his pocket and placed it into the lock. To his shock, the key fit perfectly. With a soft click, the door unlocked, and Tom pushed it open. Inside, the air was cold and heavy, and the room was dark. He stepped in slowly, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. His footsteps echoed as he walked further in. The room was empty except for a large cabinet at the back, covered in dust and cobwebs. Tom felt drawn to the cabinet. as if something inside it was waiting for him. He pulled open one of its heavy doors, and inside, he found a small notebook. It was old, with pages that were yellowed and torn. He picked it up and flipped through it, trying to make out the faded handwriting. The words in the notebook were strange and confusing. They seemed to be notes about different people who lived in the city, people Tom knew. The notebook spoke of secrets they had kept hidden dark, personal things that no one should know. There were names, addresses, and even descriptions of what these people had done. Tom was shocked and disturbed. He couldn't believe what he was reading. As he stood there, he suddenly heard a noise behind him. He turned quickly, but no one was there. His heart raced, and he realized he was not supposed to be here. Quickly, he put the notebook back, closed the cabinet, and quietly left the building, locking the door behind him. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. His mind was filled with thoughts about the strange notebook and the secrets it held. Why did that old woman give him the key? Why did it fit this door? And why did it seem like the key wanted him to find those secrets? The next morning, he decided to go back to the building to see if the notebook was still there. But when he arrived, the door was locked again, and the key no longer fit the lock. Confused and slightly scared, Tom realized that the key didn't work just anywhere. It only opened certain doors that held secrets. Over the next few days, Tom became obsessed with the key. He would wander through the city, feeling the key in his pocket, waiting for it to grow warm and show him another door. Part of him wanted to know more, to uncover more secrets, but another part of him felt uneasy. He knew that some things were better left hidden, yet he couldn't resist the strange power of the key. One evening, as he was about to give up his search and go home, he felt the key grow warm again. It was calling him to another building, another door, another secret. Part 2. Secrets in the Shadows. Tom could not ignore the warmth of the key in his pocket. It was calling him again, pulling him toward a new door and, perhaps, a new secret. He was scared, but his curiosity was stronger. He followed the feeling as it guided him to an old, brick building at the end of a quiet street. It was a place he had never noticed before, though he had walked this route many times. The building looked abandoned. The windows were covered with dust, and the paint on the walls was peeling. It seemed no one had lived there for years. Tom's hands were shaking as he approached the door. Just like before, he took the mysterious key from his pocket and placed it in the lock. It clicked open smoothly, and he stepped inside. The air inside was stale, smelling of damp wood and old paper. Tom could see faint light coming from a window above, casting strange shadows across the room. The room was empty, except for a few broken chairs and an old chest against the wall. This place felt different from the last one, colder, darker, and filled with an unsettling silence. As he walked deeper into the room, he felt the key grow warm again. He followed the warmth until he stood in front of the chest. It was covered in dust, and it looked heavy, but Tom's instincts told him to open it. Carefully, he lifted the lid. Inside the chest, he found a stack of old letters tied together with a thin, faded red ribbon. The letters looked like they had been hidden for years. He untied the ribbon and picked up the first letter. The handwriting was shaky, as if the person who wrote it was nervous or in a hurry. The letter spoke of a man named Richard, someone who had lived in the city many years ago. Richard seemed to have a kind, friendly face, but the letter described dark actions he had done in secret. According to the letter, Richard had stolen from the very people who trusted him. He had taken their money, their valuables, and their trust, hiding his actions behind a smile. Tom felt a chill as he read. He knew this name. Richard was not a stranger. He was the friendly man who used to own the grocery store in Tom's neighborhood years ago. Tom remembered seeing him often, always cheerful, always offering friendly advice. But this letter painted a different picture, showing Richard as a man with a dark heart, someone who hid his true self. He couldn't believe it. How could a man like Richard, someone everyone trusted, be so cruel? Tom placed the letter back and looked through the others. Each letter was a piece of a hidden story, revealing more about Richard's secret life. It was as if the letters had been waiting all this time for someone to find them. Suddenly, Tom heard a creaking sound behind him. He froze, his heart pounding. He wasn't sure if it was just the old building settling or if someone else was there. The room was dark, and every shadow seemed to be hiding something. For a moment, he wanted to drop the letters and leave, but a strange determination kept him there. Taking a deep breath, he turned back to the chest. But just as he was about to read another letter, he felt something else at the bottom of the chest. It was a small wooden box, locked tightly. He pulled it out, examining it under the dim light. The box was smooth and polished, with a single lock keeping it shut. He tried using the key on the box, and to his surprise, it fit perfectly. With a quiet click, the box unlocked, and he opened it slowly. Inside was a small notebook, much like the one he had found before. The pages were yellowed with age, and the writing inside was even stranger than in the letters. The notebook was filled with names of people Tom knew, people who still lived in the city. Next to each name was a short sentence or two, describing their secrets, their lies, or the things they had done when they thought no one was watching. Each name came with a dark story, things Tom could hardly believe. He saw names of his neighbors, his old friends, even people he had met casually in his shop. Each secret was more shocking than the last. He could feel the weight of their hidden lives pressing down on him. It was too much, too many secrets for one person to bear. Tom felt sick. He wanted to close the notebook, to leave these secrets behind and walk away. But a voice in his mind whispered that he couldn't. He had to know, he had to understand. Why were these secrets here? Why did the key lead him to them? Suddenly, he realized the danger he was in. If people knew he held these secrets, they might not let him walk away. He was not just a locksmith anymore. He was becoming someone who held the hidden truths of the people around him, truths that could destroy lives. Quickly, he closed the box and returned it to the chest. He tied the letters back with the red ribbon, putting everything back as he had found it. Then, He carefully locked the chest and left the building, making sure the door was secure behind him. As he walked home, Tom's mind raced. He felt as if he were carrying a heavy weight. He wanted to forget what he had seen, to live as if he had never unlocked that door. But he knew that was impossible. The secrets were in his mind now, filling him with a strange mix of fear and power. When he reached his home, he sat down at his small kitchen table, the key resting in front of him. He stared at it, his thoughts swirling. This key was no ordinary key. It was a tool that opened doors to hidden worlds, worlds filled with the dark sides of people he thought he knew. As the days went on, Tom tried to return to his normal life. He continued his work as a locksmith, fixing locks and making keys. But every now and then, he would feel the key grow warm again, calling him toward another door, another secret. It was like the key was alive, choosing which doors to open and which secrets to reveal. One evening, he felt the key grow warm once more. But this time, it seemed stronger than before, almost urgent. He knew what it meant. There was another door waiting for him, another truth hidden in the shadows. Tom took a deep breath, preparing himself for whatever he might find. He knew that every time he unlocked a door, he stepped deeper into a world he barely understood, a world filled with secrets that were not his own. But something inside him whispered that he had to keep going, that there was more to uncover, and that the key was leading him toward a truth bigger than he could imagine. Part 3. Into the Depths. Tom could not escape the strange power of the key. Each time it grew warm, he felt himself drawn deeper into the hidden lives of his city. Every secret he uncovered seemed darker than the last, and yet he could not resist. The key had become a part of him, guiding him into places he had no business entering. One evening, as he was about to close his shop, he felt it again, the warmth spreading from his pocket, calling him. The feeling was stronger than before, almost like a voice urging him forward. This time, the key led him to a part of town he rarely visited, a quiet street with tall, gloomy buildings and narrow alleys. He followed the warmth to an old 3-story house with dark windows and thick vines covering the walls. Tom hesitated. The house looked abandoned, yet it had an eerie presence, as if it were waiting for him. Taking a deep breath, he walked up to the front door and tried the key. It fit perfectly, as always, and with a soft click, the door unlocked. Tom pushed the door open and stepped inside. The hallway was dimly lit by a single, flickering light bulb. The wallpaper was peeling, and the wooden floor creaked under his feet. The house felt cold, as if no one had lived there for years. But Tom knew better by now. The quiet was only a mask hiding something much deeper. He wandered through the house, peering into empty rooms filled with dust and broken furniture. As he moved deeper, he found a narrow staircase leading down into the basement. The key in his pocket grew even warmer, guiding him down the steps. The basement was dark and damp, with a faint smell of mildew. Tom found an old light switch on the wall and flipped it, filling the room with a dim, yellow glow. In the center of the basement was a large table covered in dusty papers, photographs, and strange-looking files. Tom approached the table and saw that the files were labeled with names he recognized. These were people from his city, neighbors, shopkeepers, people he passed every day. He picked up a file and opened it, feeling a sense of dread as he read. Inside were detailed notes on a man named Frank, who ran the bakery on the main street. Tom had known Frank for years, always smiling, always offering him a free pastry when he passed by. But the file told a different story. The notes described how Frank had once been involved in illegal activities, smuggling goods into the city and making deals with dangerous people. According to the file, he had left that life behind, but he was still hiding things. Debts, secrets, and a fear that someone might discover his past. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Frank, who had seemed so friendly, had been hiding a dangerous past. And if Tom knew this, then surely others did too. He glanced at the other files, realizing that each one contained a story like this. Secrets people had buried, hoping they would never be uncovered. He opened another file, this one about a woman named Linda, who worked as a nurse at the local hospital. Tom had seen her around and knew her to be kind and caring, but her file contained a hidden truth. Years ago, Linda had been accused of stealing medicine from the hospital. Though the charges were dropped, rumors had followed her, and she had fought hard to rebuild her reputation. Page after page, Tom uncovered the hidden lives of people he thought he knew. Every file told a different story, each one filled with mistakes, regrets, and secrets. It was as if this basement held the hidden history of the entire city. But as he looked through the files, he began to feel uneasy. Why were these records here? Who had gathered them, and why did the key lead him to this place? It was as if someone wanted him to know these secrets, as if they were guiding him for a reason he could not understand. Suddenly, he heard a faint sound from above, the creak of footsteps on the floorboards. Tom's heart raced. Someone was in the house. Quickly, he gathered the files he had opened and put them back as he had found them. He turned off the light and moved toward the stairs, trying to stay as quiet as possible. He listened carefully, holding his breath as he heard the footsteps growing closer. The creaking grew louder, and he knew he had to leave before he was caught. But as he reached the top of the stairs, he froze. Standing in the doorway was a man dressed in a dark coat, his face hidden in the shadows. The man's gaze was fixed on Tom, his eyes cold and unforgiving. "You shouldn't be here," the man said, his voice low and threatening. Tom tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come. He felt trapped, caught in a place he didn't belong. The man took a step forward, his eyes narrowing. "You've seen things you shouldn't have," he continued. "People's lives, their secrets. Do you think they want you to know? Do you think they want anyone to know?" Tom swallowed hard, fear gripping him. He hadn't thought about it that way. He had been so caught up in the mystery of the key that he hadn't considered the lives he was invading, the secrets he was uncovering without permission. The man took another step closer. "Leave now, and forget what you saw. If you don't, there will be consequences." Tom nodded, his heart pounding. He turned and hurried out of the basement, past the dim hallway, and out the front door. He didn't stop running until he was far from the house, the man's warning echoing in his mind. When he finally stopped, he was shaking. The thrill of uncovering secrets had vanished, replaced by a heavy sense of guilt and fear. He had crossed a line he hadn't seen before, and now he realized the weight of the secrets he held. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the files in the basement, about the people he had read about, people he knew. Part of him felt he should never go back, that he should throw the key away and forget everything. But another part of him, the part driven by curiosity, wanted to keep searching, to find out why the key kept guiding him to these places. As the days passed, Tom tried to return to his regular life, to the simple routines he once loved. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Every time he walked down the street, he felt eyes following him, as if the secrets he knew had marked him, making him a target. One afternoon, as he was working in his shop, he noticed a folded piece of paper on his workbench. He hadn't put it there, and he didn't know who had. He unfolded the paper and found a single sentence written in bold, black letters. "The key was never meant for you." Tom's hands shook as he read the message. Someone knew about the key, someone who didn't want him to keep it. The warning from the man in the basement echoed in his mind, and he realized he was in deeper than he had ever imagined. That night, he sat alone in his small apartment, the key resting on the table before him. He knew he should get rid of it, throw it into the river, or bury it somewhere no one would find it. But he couldn't bring himself to do it. The key was part of him now, part of a mystery that felt too big to leave unsolved. As he stared at the key, he made a decision. He would go back one last time. He would try to uncover the truth behind the key, the secrets, and the people who seemed determined to keep him away. But he would be careful. He would move quietly, make sure no one saw him, and, most importantly, he would try to learn who was behind the secrets in the shadows. With a final glance at the key, he slipped it into his pocket. He had one more journey to make, one more truth to uncover, and this time he knew the risks. Part 4. The Silent Watchers. Tom's decision to go back haunted him. The warning, "The key was never meant for you," echoed in his mind, but he felt that he could not just walk away. He had come too far. He had to know the truth behind the key and the strange secrets it unlocked. Late one evening, he set out once more, the key in his pocket. This time he moved carefully, sticking to side streets and avoiding familiar faces. He had learned to be cautious. Ever since that night in the abandoned house, he felt he was being watched. Strangers on the street, figures in windows. They all seemed to follow him with their eyes, as if they knew what he had seen and wanted to stop him. The key grew warm again, guiding him down a path he hadn't taken before. It led him to a part of town he barely recognized, filled with rundown buildings and empty lots. Finally, he arrived at an old, ivy-covered mansion that looked like it had been abandoned for decades. The windows were cracked, and the paint was peeling. The place seemed lifeless, but the key in his pocket was nearly burning with warmth. With a deep breath, Tom approached the mansion's massive front door. The key slid into the lock smoothly, and with a soft click, it turned. He pushed the door open, and a rush of cold air greeted him as he stepped inside. The mansion's interior was dark and shadowy, with tall ceilings and old-fashioned furniture covered in dust. Shadows clung to every corner, making the place feel even more foreboding. He moved carefully, guided by the faint light from the street that slipped through broken windows. In the center of the main hallway stood a grand staircase, its steps creaking as he ascended. Each step echoed through the silent house, and he felt as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. As he climbed to the second floor, the warmth from the key guided him down a corridor filled with old paintings and portraits. The faces in the portraits seemed to stare at him, judging him silently, as if they knew why he was there. Finally, the key led him to a heavy wooden door at the end of the hallway. Tom felt a strange hesitation as he reached for the doorknob. This door felt different from the others he had opened. He could sense something powerful and dangerous behind it. But he had come this far, and he could not turn back now. He opened the door and stepped inside. The room was large, with high ceilings and walls lined with bookshelves. In the center stood a massive desk, and behind it sat a tall, slender man with sharp features and piercing blue eyes. The man looked up as Tom entered, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Ah, so you're the one with the key," the man said in a smooth, cold voice. "I've been expecting you." Tom felt a chill run down his spine. This man had been waiting for him, as if he had known all along that Tom would find his way here. The man gestured to a chair across from him. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." Tom hesitated but eventually sat down, his eyes never leaving the stranger. The man's gaze was intense, as if he could see right through Tom. "You have been using the key to open doors that were not meant for you," the man began, his voice calm but firm. "You've seen things that others have tried to hide, secrets that were meant to stay buried." Tom swallowed, feeling a mix of fear and defiance. "I didn't ask for this. The key led me here. I just wanted to know the truth." The man nodded, as if he understood. The key is a powerful tool. It has a mind of its own, guiding those it chooses to the hidden parts of this city. But it was not meant for you. The key chooses its bearers carefully, and you were an accident. "An accident?" Tom asked, confused. "Yes," the man replied. "The key was meant for someone else, someone who was trained to handle the secrets it reveals. But somehow, it found its way to you. And now you are caught up in something far larger than you understand." Tom felt a surge of anger. "If you knew all this, why didn't you stop me sooner? Why let me find out these secrets?" The man's eyes flashed with a hint of amusement. "Because I was curious. I wanted to see how far you would go. Most people would have thrown the key away, terrified of what it revealed. But not you. You kept searching, even when the secrets became dangerous." Tom clenched his fists. "So what now? Are you here to take the key back? The man shook his head slowly. It's not that simple. You have already seen too much. If I take the key from you now, the secrets you know will still remain in your mind. And some people, they will not be pleased that you hold their secrets. Tom felt his stomach drop. He realized now just how deep he was in. These secrets weren't just stories. They were dangerous truths that could ruin lives, or worse. The man leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. But perhaps there is another way. You could become the key's rightful bearer. I could train you, teach you how to handle the secrets, how to protect them, and yourself. Tom was silent, trying to process what the man was offering. It was a chance to understand the key, to control it rather than be controlled by it. But it was also a commitment to a life of hidden truths, of being forever bound to the secrets of others. Before he could answer, the man continued. Of course, there is a price. Once you accept, there is no going back. You will become part of this city's secret world, and you will never be able to leave it. Tom felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. He thought of his simple life as a locksmith, the quiet days in his shop, and the friends he had in the city. But he also felt the pull of the key, the thrill of uncovering hidden truths, the sense of purpose it had given him. After a long silence, Tom looked the man in the eyes. I'll do it. I want to learn. I want to know the truth. The man smiled, a look of satisfaction crossing his face. Very well. But know this, Tom. The truth is not always easy. Once you start down this path, it will consume you. You must be willing to sacrifice everything. Tom nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over him. He had made his choice. There was no turning back. The man reached into his coat and pulled out a small, leather-bound book. This will be your guide. Study it carefully, and remember, every secret has a price. He handed the book to Tom, who took it with a sense of reverence. The pages were filled with strange symbols and notes, instructions for using the key and handling the hidden doors. The man stood, signaling that their meeting was over. We will meet again soon, he said. Until then, be cautious. There are others who will not be pleased that you hold the key. Tom left the mansion with the book in his hand and a new determination in his heart. He knew that he had chosen a dangerous path, but he also felt a strange sense of freedom. The key was no longer a mystery to him. It was his responsibility. In the days that followed, Tom threw himself into his training. He studied the book, practiced unlocking the hidden doors, and learned to listen for the whispers of secrets that lingered in the shadows. He felt himself changing, growing sharper, more aware of the hidden world around him. But as he delved deeper, he began to sense that he was being watched. Figures moved in the shadows. People he didn't recognize seemed to appear wherever he went. The warnings of the man in the mansion echoed in his mind. He was no longer safe. One night, as he returned to his apartment, he found a message slipped under his door. It was a single piece of paper, with a message written in neat, precise handwriting. You have chosen a dangerous path. The secrets you seek will not protect you. Be careful, Tom, for the Watchers are everywhere. Tom read the message with a sinking feeling. He knew now that he was in deep, that the key had not just given him access to secrets but had marked him. He was no longer just a locksmith. He was part of a hidden world, one filled with dangers he was only beginning to understand. As he closed his door and sat alone in his apartment, Tom realized that he was truly alone. The Watchers were closing in, and the secrets he held had made him a target. But he was determined to continue. The truth, he knew, was worth the risk. Part 5. The Final Door. Tom's life had become a maze of secrets, shadows, and silent threats. The more he learned, the more he realized how deep the mysteries of his city truly ran. The Watchers were everywhere now, silently observing him, trying to uncover how much he knew. Every day, he felt their eyes on him, watching his every move, but he refused to let fear control him. He was determined to uncover the final secrets, to find the truth behind the key. He had learned so much since his last meeting with the stranger in the mansion. But there was still one door he had yet to open, a door that, according to his mysterious guidebook, would reveal the heart of the hidden world. The instructions in the guidebook were vague, filled with cryptic symbols and phrases, but Tom was beginning to understand their meaning. The final door lay somewhere deep within the city, in a hidden chamber below the ground. This was the place the key had been created, and where all its secrets began. If he could reach it, he would finally understand the purpose of the key, and the meaning behind all the secrets it unlocked. After days of careful searching, Tom finally found the entrance to the underground chamber. It was hidden beneath an old, crumbling library on the outskirts of the city. The library was abandoned, its windows shattered and books scattered everywhere. It was a place that time had forgotten. Tom moved quietly through the empty building, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The key grew warm in his pocket, guiding him to a hidden staircase beneath the floorboards. He pried them open, revealing a narrow stone staircase that led down into darkness. With only a flashlight to guide him, Tom descended into the depths, feeling the weight of the secrets pressing down on him. The air grew colder, and the smell of damp earth filled his nose. After what felt like hours, he reached the bottom, where a large iron door waited. This was it, the final door. The key trembled in his hand, as if it, too, understood the importance of this moment. Tom took a deep breath, steadied his hand, and inserted the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, and the door creaked open, revealing a vast, underground chamber filled with strange, glimmering symbols on the walls. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it lay an ancient book. The book was thick, with a leather cover that looked as if it had been bound centuries ago. Tom approached it slowly, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. This was the heart of the secret world he had been searching for. As he opened the book, he heard a voice behind him. It was the man from the mansion. "You found it," he said, his voice filled with a strange admiration. "You truly have the spirit of a seeker, Tom." Tom turned to face him, but he felt no fear this time. He had come too far to back down. "Tell me the truth," he demanded. "What is this key, and why did it choose me?" The man smiled, a mysterious look in his eyes. "The key is not just a tool. It is a test. Only those who are willing to uncover the darkest secrets, those who can handle the weight of truth, are chosen by it. You, Tom, were chosen because you are willing to see what others hide from themselves." Tom listened, feeling the words sink in. "And this book? What is it?" The man's gaze grew serious. "This book contains the history of the key and every secret it has ever revealed. It is the record of all those who have dared to look beyond the surface of the world. But it is also a warning. Not all secrets are meant to be known. Some truths are too dangerous to reveal." Tom felt a shiver run down his spine as he flipped through the pages of the book. Each page seemed to tell a different story, each one darker than the last. He saw images of people he had never met but who seemed strangely familiar. He saw glimpses of lives torn apart by the secrets the key had revealed. It was as if the book was showing him the cost of seeking the truth. Finally, he reached a blank page, and he looked up at the man, confused. "Why is this page empty?" The man smiled sadly. "That page is for you, Tom. Every bearer of the key leaves their mark in the book. Every secret you uncover, every truth you reveal, will become part of this record. But remember, with each truth, there is a price." Tom understood now. This was not just a book of secrets. It was a contract, binding him to the key and the hidden world forever. He would become part of the city's hidden history, just like the bearers before him. As he stood there, absorbing this realization, he heard footsteps echoing down the staircase. He turned, his heart pounding. The watchers had arrived. He recognized a few faces, strangers he had seen following him on the streets, people who had warned him to stay away. They were closing in, their faces stern and filled with silent judgment. The man beside him sighed. "They will not let you leave easily, Tom. They want to protect their secrets. But now that you hold the book, they will not stop until they silence you." Tom felt the weight of the key in his hand, understanding now that it had led him here to make a choice. He could close the door and walk away, let the watchers take the book and erase everything he had learned. Or he could stand his ground, protect the knowledge he had gained, and fight for the truth. With a steady hand, he closed the book and placed it under his arm. He looked at the man beside him, who nodded approvingly. "You are ready, Tom. The choice is yours." The watchers moved closer, their footsteps echoing like thunder in the underground chamber. Tom felt a surge of determination. He would not be silenced. He had come too far, uncovered too much, to let the truth be buried again. He raised the key in his hand, feeling its power flow through him. The watchers hesitated, sensing his newfound strength. He took a step forward, and they stepped back, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. In that moment, Tom realized the true purpose of the key. It was not just a tool to unlock doors. It was a weapon, a symbol of his right to seek the truth. He had been chosen not to hide, but to reveal, to bring light to the secrets that others tried to bury. With the book in his hand and the key as his guide, Tom made his way toward the exit. The watchers parted, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and respect. They knew that he was no longer just a curious locksmith. He was now a bearer of the truth, a keeper of the city's darkest secrets. As he climbed the staircase back to the surface, he felt a sense of freedom he had never known before. The city lay before him, filled with hidden rooms and untold stories, and he knew that he would never stop searching, never stop uncovering the secrets that lay just beneath the surface. For he was Tom, the man with the hidden key, and he would forever be the seeker of truths in a world of shadows.